The girl in the drain. The night was cold. Not the kind of cold that simply made your hands shiver, but the kind that pressed against your chest and made the world feel like it didn't care. The rain had been falling all day, and now it was just a mist that hovered over the sidewalks and made every surface slick. Beneath a broken streetlight in a narrow alley that no one used anymore, lay a storm drain. It was half clogged with leaves, old trash, and something far more heartbreaking. Deep inside that drain, hidden beneath the shadows and metal bars, was a girl. Her name was Aaliyah. She was only 8 years old, but her bones ached like she had lived 100 years. She was born with a disability that made it hard for her to walk. Her legs didn't work like others. Her knees bent in strange ways, and her feet didn't move where she wanted them to. She used to have a small wheelchair, a bright red one with stickers on the wheels, but it had been taken from her days ago. The girl was wrapped in a thin sweater, not even a real one. Just something her stepmother had thrown at her before shoving her out of the house. She remembered the woman's face, cold, angry. She'd said, "I can't take care of a useless child. You're a burden. Go crawl somewhere and die." And then she had driven off. Aaliyah didn't cry when she was left alone. She had cried enough before. At night, she would whisper stories to herself. Stories of warm blankets, hot chocolate, and someone kind finding her, someone who would see her and not just look away. But days passed. People passed. No one stopped. No one even noticed her. Her body was getting weaker. She hadn't eaten in 3 days. She drank rainwater from a plastic lid she'd found in the trash. Her voice had grown thin, barely above a whisper now. The only thing she had left was a small notebook tucked under her sweater. It was water damaged, but still dry enough in the middle. She wrote tiny letters with a broken pencil stub. Not because she had anything important to say, but because it made her feel like she existed. Then something changed. It happened on a Thursday afternoon. The clouds had broken just enough to let in some sunlight, and the city felt a little less heavy. Down the same alley, past the cracked walls and broken pipes, walked a man. Tall, quiet, dressed in black jeans, an old jacket, and a kindness that couldn't be hidden. Keanu Reeves had come to this part of the city to visit a mechanic shop he used to know. His old motorcycle had been acting up and he liked to support small businesses. But when he turned down the alley, something pulled him to stop. He heard a sound, not loud, not clear, but something, like a rustle or a whisper. He followed it. He crouched by the storm drain and looked in. At first, all he saw was trash and leaves. But then, his eyes caught something else. A pair of eyes. Wide. Tired. Scared. He didn't move fast. He didn't shout. He knelt and spoke gently. "Hey, are you okay?" Aaliyah didn't answer at first. She thought she was dreaming, hallucinating. People had walked by before. But this one, he wasn't walking away. Keanu leaned in closer. "You don't have to be scared. I'm here to help." A tear slid down Aaliyah's cheek, not because she was afraid, but because someone had finally seen her. He slipped off his jacket and covered her with it. It was warm. It smelled like rain, and leather and something safe. Then he pulled out his phone and called for help. Not just any help. He called a private medical team he had once donated to. Within minutes, a van arrived. The team worked fast. They lifted Aaliyah gently, checked her vitals, and placed her on a stretcher. Keanu stayed close the entire time. He held her hand. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Aaliyah," she whispered, her voice barely there. "That's a beautiful name," he said, and his smile made her feel like the world had flipped back into color. As they rode to the medical center, Keanu sat beside her. He didn't look at his phone. He didn't take calls. He just held her hand as if the world could wait. At the hospital, the doctors were shocked. Not just because of her condition, but because of how long she had been alone. "This girl should not be alive," one of them said quietly. "Her spirit is strong." Keanu nodded. She's a fighter. But as Aaliyah slept, her body recovering under warm blankets and proper care, Keanu stepped into the hallway and made a call. Not to the press, not to a studio, but to a lawyer. "Find out who did this," he said, "and make sure they never hurt her again." What Keanu didn't know then, and what the world would soon find out, was that Aaliyah's story wasn't just one of pain and survival. It was the beginning of something greater, of secrets hidden, of people who had failed her, and of a quiet man who was about to shake an entire system, not with anger but with unstoppable kindness. But for now, the girl who had been left to die in a drain was finally safe. Whispers from the past. The rain didn't fall that night. For the first time in days, the sky held back its sorrow. Inside a quiet room at a private medical center, Aaliyah lay under soft blankets, her chest rising and falling gently. The beeping of machines surrounded her like a lullaby, steady and kind. Her cheeks had color again. Her hands were clean. For the first time in weeks, she wasn't cold. Keanu Reeves sat beside her bed. He hadn't left since they brought her in. He didn't need cameras or headlines. He simply couldn't walk away. Something about Aaliyah had pierced through him. The way she held on, even with nothing left to hold on to. She reminded him of someone, maybe himself when he was younger, maybe someone he had lost. That morning, Aaliyah slowly opened her eyes. The light didn't hurt as much. The pain in her legs had softened, but most of all the fear was gone. "You stayed," she whispered, her voice barely there. "Of course," Keanu said, offering her a gentle smile. "You're not alone anymore." A tear rolled down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. It was the kind that didn't burn, the kind that let out years of silent screams. "Am I going back?" she asked suddenly. Her voice trembled. "Going back where?" Keanu asked. "To her. The woman." Keanu's jaw tightened. He shook his head slowly. "No, never. She lost that right." Aaliyah closed her eyes as if those words gave her permission to breathe. Then, her small hand reached under her blanket. She pulled out her soaked notebook, pages wrinkled and fading. "These are my stories," she whispered. "I wrote them when I was hiding." Keanu took the notebook with care, like it was something holy. He flipped through the pages, reading, lines written in shaky letters. They were stories of heroes. A girl who could fly, a dog that could talk, a lonely queen waiting for someone to come save her. "They're beautiful," Keanu said. "Just like you." But outside that hospital room, a storm was brewing. Keanu's lawyer, a woman named Sonia, had spent the night digging. She found records, neighbors, and witnesses. What she uncovered was worse than neglect. It was cruelty layered in silence. Aaliyah's stepmother had taken guardianship after Aaliyah's real father passed away in a car accident. The woman, named Tricia, had claimed state money for taking care of a disabled child. Nearly $2,000 a month. Money meant for Aaliyah's care, her food, her wheelchair, her therapy. But the woman hadn't spent a single cent on her. She had lied on every form, used Aaliyah as a checkbook. And when the money slowed, she threw the child away like garbage. Sonia's voice was shaking when she called Keanu. "We can press charges. We have evidence. But if we go public, this will get messy." Keanu looked through the hospital window at Aaliyah, who had fallen asleep again holding her notebook. He didn't care about messy. "Do it," he said. "Make sure she never does this to another child." That same afternoon, Keanu took a moment to sit with Aaliyah again. This time he brought something special, a tablet loaded with drawing apps. She lit up when she saw it. He showed her how to use it, and soon her fingers were flying across the screen, painting stars, dogs, and even a superhero girl with 2 glowing legs. "That's you?" Keanu asked. Aaliyah nodded. "But in this one, I can run." His chest tightened at those words. Quietly, he stepped outside and made another call, this time to someone named Dr. Lucas, a specialist in pediatric mobility. "I need you to build something special," he said. "Money is no issue. Just build her a future." But fate wasn't done testing them yet. The next day, A woman in sunglasses and high heels barged into the hospital lobby, screaming for attention. It was Trisha, Elia's stepmother, and she wasn't there to apologize. "You're holding my daughter," she shouted. "I want her back right now." Security stepped in quickly, but Trisha kept shouting, claiming the hospital was kidnapping her child. Reporters had caught wind of the story and had started gathering outside. Keanu stayed calm. He walked slowly to the lobby and faced her. "You threw her in a storm drain," he said, his voice low. "That's a lie," she snapped. "She ran away. I tried everything." Keanu didn't yell. He didn't raise a hand. He simply turned to the lawyer beside him and handed her a folder filled with documents, witness statements, payment receipts, and photos from the drain. "You're done," he said. "You won't hurt her again." Police arrived soon after. Trisha was taken away in cuffs, still shouting, still blaming everyone but herself. But the world saw everything now, and this time the world didn't look away. That evening, Keanu sat next to Aaliyah and told her the truth. "She's gone," he said. "You're free." Aaliyah looked at him for a long time. Then she whispered, "Can I stay with you?" Keanu didn't hesitate. "As long as you want." But the story didn't end there. Because deep inside her stories, Aaliyah had written something strange, something that Keanu didn't understand yet. Pages that spoke of a woman with a scar, a locked room, and a secret that could change everything. And as he flipped through the notebook later that night, one line stood out. "My dad knew something they wanted to keep hidden, and I think that's why he's gone." The truth was much darker than anyone thought, and Aaliyah's pain had only just begun to make sense. The secret in her notebook, the hospital had become quiet again. The reporters had left. The cameras had gone dark. And Trisha, the woman who called herself Aaliyah's stepmother, was now sitting behind bars. But for Aaliyah, the silence didn't bring peace. It brought something else, something deeper. A memory that kept knocking on the door of her mind, asking to be heard. She sat in bed with her tablet in her lap, her tiny fingers moving carefully across the screen as she drew. Keanu sat beside her, holding her old notebook. He'd read most of the pages already. Short stories about imaginary creatures, castles made of clouds, and children who could fly. But some pages were different, darker, full of strange words and broken sentences that looked like dreams or maybe nightmares. One sentence in particular kept repeating, "He told me never to open the red box." Keanu turned to Aaliyah gently. "Aaliyah, who told you that?" She looked up at him. Her eyes were full of questions she was afraid to ask. "My real dad," she whispered. "He said the box was dangerous." Keanu placed a hand on hers. "Do you remember where the box is?" Aaliyah nodded slowly. "I think it's under the floor in the old house, in his office. It was always locked." Keanu leaned back, his mind turning. "Your dad, what did he do before he passed?" "He worked at a company," she said. "They made machines. He said some machines helped people, but some were not supposed to be built. I think he wanted to stop something." Keanu knew that look. It was the look of a child holding a truth too big for their age. Later that evening, he spoke to Sonia, his lawyer. She dug into old records and found that Aaliyah's father, Michael Eldridge, had been a lead engineer for a powerful tech company. But 6 months before his accident, he had filed a complaint with the board, saying the company had developed an artificial learning program with military applications. He had wanted the project shut down. Weeks later, he died in a car crash that was ruled an accident. Keanu didn't believe in easy coincidences. The next morning, he took Aaliyah for a short walk through the hospital garden. Her legs were still weak, so she used a temporary wheelchair. But the sun was warm, and for the first time she smiled. "Can we go back to the house?" she asked suddenly. Keanu looked at her. "Is that what you want?" She nodded. "I need to know what's in the box." Keanu didn't answer right away. The house was still owned by Trisha. But with the court freezing her assets and an active case underway, there was a narrow window where they could visit. legally before it became part of the official investigation. "All right," he said finally. "We'll go tomorrow, but we're not going alone." That night, Keanu called two people he trusted deeply, his old friend Marco, a former intelligence officer, and Dr. Lucas, who had been working on a custom exosuit designed for Aaliyah. They met in secret and laid out the plan. Get in. Find the red box. Get out. The next day, they arrived at the house. It stood at the edge of the city, quiet and forgotten. Overgrown weeds choked the walkway. The windows were clouded with dust. It didn't look like a home. It looked like something abandoned by kindness. Aaliyah's hands shook slightly as she looked at the door. Keanu knelt beside her and whispered, "You don't have to go in. I can go for you." She shook her head. "No, I want to go." Keanu lifted her gently from the car. Dr. Lucas helped fit a soft exosuit around her legs, lightweight, flexible, and shaped like a pair of supportive braces. It wouldn't let her run, but it would let her stand. Aaliyah stood for the first time. In weeks, it wasn't perfect, but it was hers. Keanu opened the front door. The inside smelled of dust and old wood. The walls were lined with photos of people who never smiled. The house felt heavy. "My dad's office is down the hall," Aaliyah said softly. They walked carefully. Aaliyah held Keanu's hand. When they reached the office door, it was still locked. Marco stepped forward and picked it quietly. Inside, the room looked untouched. Papers still sat on the desk. A faded coffee cup was in the corner. And near the back wall, a loose wooden board in the floor. "There," Aaliyah said, pointing. Keanu and Marco pried the board open. Beneath it was a metal box, painted red, covered in dust. No key. Just a fingerprint scanner, long dead from lack of power. "How do we open it?" Keanu asked. Aaliyah looked down at her hand. "My dad said, only blood opens the past." She reached down slowly and pressed her thumb against the edge of the box. Nothing happened. Keanu touched the side of the device. "Wait, it's not dead, it's sleeping." He reached into his backpack and pulled out a portable battery. Carefully, he attached the wire to the box. A small green light blinked once, then twice, then clicked. The box opened. Inside were flash drives, letters, and one small black notebook with a silver logo on it, an emblem that Marco recognized immediately. "This is from a defense project that was buried years ago," Marco whispered. Keanu read through the pages. What he found made his chest tighten. Aaliyah's father had discovered that the company was using children, disabled children, for neurological testing, children who wouldn't be missed. They were trying to develop a new way to control military drones using the minds of people who couldn't speak or move. "Aaliyah," Keanu whispered, "your father was trying to protect kids, maybe even you." But there was more. One final entry, written in her father's hand. "They know I'm going to expose them. If I don't make it, my daughter will be the last witness." Keanu looked at Aaliyah, who stood quietly beside him. Her eyes filled with tears, but not fear. Strength. "We're not done," Keanu said. "We're going to finish what your father started." But just as he spoke those words, a shadow moved outside the window. Not the wind, not a bird. Someone had followed them, and they weren't there to help. The shadow outside the window, the room fell into silence. Keanu Reeves froze in place, his body instinctively shielding Aaliyah. Marco moved to the window, slow and deliberate, like someone who had walked through war zones and still remembered how danger breathed. Outside, the sunlight was sharp, but the figure in the yard had already vanished. "We need to go," Marco whispered. "We've been seen." Keanu nodded. He grabbed the red box, carefully slipping the contents into a secure bag. Aaliyah's tiny hand gripped his coat, eyes wide, breathing fast. "Am I in danger?" she asked softly. "Not while I'm with you," Keanu said, voice calm but tight. "Not ever." They left the house in silence. Outside, everything looked normal. The wind in the trees, a bird perched on the fence. But behind normal, something moved. Something watching, waiting. In the car, Keanu turned to Marco. Do we know who it is? Marco looked at the emblem on the black notebook again. If this connects back to Project Emberlight, we're dealing with more than just corporate greed. They buried this tech years ago for a reason. Whoever's still guarding it won't stop. Dr. Lucas, who had stayed in the vehicle with backup equipment, leaned forward. Do you think they know about Aaliyah? They know now, Marco said. Keanu looked at Aaliyah. She sat quietly in the back seat, tablet on her lap, drawing again. This time it was a picture of a tall man holding hands with a small girl, both standing in front of a huge wall with a crack down the middle. Behind the crack, something bright and golden peeked through. We can't run, Keanu said. We expose it. Are you sure? Sonia asked over the speakerphone. You're talking about a major defense contractor protected by layers of law and power. I don't care, Keanu said. This girl nearly died because no one listened. I'm listening now. That night they checked into a private retreat Keanu owned outside the city, a place hidden in the trees, known to very few. It was safe, at least for now. Aaliyah was placed in a room with a fireplace, soft blankets, and shelves full of books. She had never had her own space before. Not like this. But sleep didn't come easily. Every creak, every whisper of wind outside made her eyes flick open. Keanu sat just outside the room, reading her father's notes by firelight. The deeper he read, the clearer the story became. Michael Eldridge had been a genius, someone who saw beyond machines, someone who believed that technology should heal, not harm. When he discovered that his company was using disabled children to test neurological drone link systems, he had protested. They said the program was for good, to give these children purpose, to make them useful again. But Michael had seen the truth. They weren't helping children. They were using them. And when he pushed back, he died. Keanu closed the notebook and stood. He walked back into Aaliyah's room. She was still awake, staring at the ceiling. You okay? He asked. You don't have to stay, she whispered. But I want to, he replied. She turned to him. Do you think my dad was scared? Keanu paused. I think he was brave. Scared and brave at the same time. Like you. Can we tell the world what he did? She asked. We will, he said. Together. But in the darkness beyond the house, a signal bounced off a hidden tower. A voice whispered through a headset. Target located, proceed as instructed. The next day, Keanu called a friend at a private media group. Her name was Lana, sharp, fearless, and impossible to buy. She agreed to meet them at a safe location to review the documents. But as they prepared to leave, Aaliyah's exosuit suddenly buzzed. Dr. Lucas looked at the controls. That's odd. The backup power cell is drained. I just charged it, Keanu said. This isn't natural, Lucas whispered. This is sabotage. A minute later, a black van was spotted parked, half a mile down the road. No license plates, windows tinted. Marco was already packing. We leave now. Take the back route. But Aaliyah stood up, her small face filled with something stronger than fear. No, she said. Keanu turned. What do you mean? They want us to run, she said. But if we run, no one sees what they did. He crouched beside her. What do you want to do? I want to speak. On camera. I want to tell them everything. Keanu smiled softly. Then let's do it. They returned inside and turned the living room into a small studio. Lana connected remotely, helping set up the camera and sound. Marco watched the perimeter. Dr. Lucas stood by with the exosuit battery repaired. Aaliyah sat in a big chair, tablet in her lap. Keanu sat beside her. Lana's voice came through the screen. Ready? Aaliyah nodded. The camera light blinked on. My name is Aaliyah, she said clearly. I'm 8 years old. I was born with legs that don't work right. My stepmother threw me away, but my real dad, Michael Eldridge, was trying to protect kids like me. He was a good man, and they killed him for it. She held up the notebook, its pages worn and full of truth. They said we were useless, but we're not. We're not broken. We're not trash. We're human. And my dad believed in us. Behind the camera, no one breathed. Keanu's throat tightened. Marco wiped his eyes. Even Lana sat in stunned silence. And one more thing, Elia said. I forgive them, but I won't be quiet. The feed went live within minutes. Lana's platform pushed it out across channels, social media, and private networks. Within hours, millions watched, and within the shadows of tall buildings and dark offices, phones began ringing. Men in suits started sweating. Because one small girl had just broken their silence. But then, the power at the safe house went out. Every light, every device, dead. And in the dark hallway, the front door slowly creaked open. The night they came, the light died fast. 1 second, the safe house was filled with the soft glow of lamps and firelight. The next, everything went black. Total silence followed. No hum of machines, no wind, not even the sound of birds. Keanu stood up instantly. He moved to the window and looked outside. The forest that wrapped around the house was still, too still. Marco was already at the front of the house, his voice low and sharp into his comms. We've lost power. Backup generator is offline. We're not alone. Dr. Lucas pulled Elia close, checking her exosuit. It still works, he whispered. The battery is manual now. Elia gripped her tablet tight, her breathing shaky. She wasn't used to the dark. Not this kind. This was the same kind of silence that had surrounded her when she lay alone in that storm drain, forgotten and unseen. Keanu knelt beside her. Remember what you said? He whispered. You're not broken. You're brave. She looked into his eyes and nodded. Are they here? Yes, he said, but so are we. The front door creaked. It was slow, steady. Not a knock, not a shout. Just the slow groan of someone pushing it open like they owned the world. Marco motioned for everyone to stay back as he moved toward the entrance, his hand on the silent alarm button, which, he already knew, wouldn't work now. A voice echoed from the doorway. Calm, polite, rehearsed. We're here for the girl. Keanu stepped forward. She's not yours, he said coldly. A tall man in a suit stepped into the light of the moon. His face was pale, expression flat, eyes like cold glass. 2 others flanked him, dressed the same, moving like shadows. Mr. Reeves, the man said smoothly. We're not here to hurt anyone. We're here to recover proprietary material that was unlawfully taken. Keanu narrowed his eyes. You mean a notebook written by a dead man who tried to stop you from experimenting on children. We all make sacrifices for progress, the man said. Even your little friend, whether she realizes it or not. Marco was already moving behind them, unseen, like a wolf through the dark. Leave, Keanu said again, this time lower, firmer. You don't understand, the man said. This isn't about the girl, it's about what's inside her head. Keanu stepped between the man and Elia. Then you'll have to go through me. Behind them, Dr. Lucas gently placed a small headset on Elia's ear. Just listen to my voice. No matter what happens, stay still and stay strong. Suddenly, the pale man raised his hand. A red dot flickered across the wall. Another across the floor. 2 laser sights. 3. But then, darkness exploded with light. Marco struck first. One of the suits fell hard to the ground. Keanu lunged forward, striking the second man in the chest with a swift, silent move. The third man reached for something in his coat, but before he could pull it, Dr. Lucas swung a steel rod against his arm, knocking him back into the hallway. Get Elia to the cellar, Marco shouted. Keanu scooped her up. Her arms clung to him tight, her small heart pounding against his chest. They rushed down a narrow staircase behind the bookcase. The cellar wasn't fancy, just stone walls and old tools, but it was safe, or at least it used to be. There's an escape. Tunnel behind the shelf, Keanu said, breathing hard. We use it. Now. But Elia was shaking her head. Wait, she said. I saw something. What? He asked. The man outside, she said. I remember him. From my dad's office. He used to visit. I thought he was nice. He brought me chocolate once. Keanu frowned. Do you remember his name? Ilya closed her eyes. Mr. Stain. Keanu blinked. Wait. Stain? As in Colin Stain? He runs Titan Systems. Ilya nodded. Keanu's blood ran cold. Titan Systems was the parent company of the now-defunct Emberlight program, the one Michael Eldridge had tried to shut down. They didn't just want Ilya's notebook. They wanted what her father might have passed to her. Mental patterns, data, memories. They think you have something in your mind, Keanu whispered. Maybe encrypted. Ilya looked scared. Can they take it out? Not if we stay ahead, he said. And not if we finish what your dad started. They escaped through the tunnel, crawling through dirt and roots until they reached the other side of the hill. Marco joined them minutes later, bruised but alive. The attackers had been stopped for now, but more would come. They always did. Keanu carried Ilya into the van. He placed the notebook beside her and whispered, We're not hiding anymore, we're taking this to the top. That night they arrived at a secure location in the city. Lana, the journalist, waited with a camera team, ready to take the story. Global Ilya sat on the stage again, but this time she wasn't alone. Keanu stood beside her. Marco and Lucas behind the cameras, and in the crowd, survivors of other failed programs once ignored, now watching her like she was hope. Ilya lifted the notebook and said into the microphone, They called us weak. But they didn't know we remember everything. She opened the notebook to the final page, one she had never read before. If you're reading this, Ilya, then I didn't make it. But you did. And that means everything. Inside you is more than memory. Inside you is a key. You are my legacy, and I believe in you more than anything. Love, Dad. The room was silent. Even the cameras didn't blink. We're not experiments, Ilya said. We're people, and we deserve to be heard. But even as her voice reached the world, something else was happening. Miles away, in a glass tower lit by flickering screens, Colin Stain stood watching the livestream. His face was calm. But behind him, a strange machine pulsed with light. Activate Subject 0, he said coldly. If she won't come to us, we will send her a message. And somewhere in a hidden lab, a girl with blank eyes opened her mouth and whispered Ilya's name. The girl with blank eyes, Ilya's voice had reached millions. Her story was now everywhere, from newspapers and newsrooms to classrooms and living rooms. People had stopped what they were doing to listen. They weren't just watching a child speak truth to power. They were watching a movement rise. Keanu Reeves sat beside her as the final broadcast ended. For the first time, the world knew the truth about Project Emberlight, about what Titan Systems had done, about the children they had used, abandoned, erased. But deep down, Ilya knew something wasn't finished. That night she sat with her tablet and drew again, only this time she didn't draw heroes or castles. She drew a girl's face, a girl with no expression, empty eyes, and silver wires running from her skull. Keanu saw the picture and paused. Who is she? Ilya looked up. I don't know. But she whispered my name. In my sleep. Keanu's heart tightened. He called Dr. Lucas immediately. Is it possible, he asked, that Ilya has a neural link to someone? Lucas's voice went quiet. Not naturally. Unless her father created a two-way interface. If another subject was connected to the same pattern, they might share dreams, feelings, even thoughts. Can someone control that link? Keanu asked. Lucas answered softly. Yes, but only from inside the system. The next morning, a small envelope was slipped under the safe house door. No address. No return name. Inside was a photo. It was her, the girl with the blank eyes. On the back, one sentence was written in red ink. Come alone, or she dies. Keanu clenched the photo in his hands. They've got her. They're using her to pull Aaliyah in. Aaliyah looked at the photo. She's like me, she said. I can feel it. Keanu nodded. She might be the last hidden child of the Emberlight project, and they're keeping her alive as a threat. Lucas and Marco tried to plan an extraction. Lana wanted to go public again, but Aaliyah sat quietly by the window and said something no one expected. I want to go. Keanu turned. What? They won't stop if we just run, she said. My dad didn't run, I don't want to either. Keanu knelt beside her. You don't have to go, you've already done more than anyone could ever ask. Aaliyah looked at him, her voice steady. But she's still trapped. Like I was. I have to try. Keanu didn't say yes. But he didn't say no either. They prepared carefully. Lucas upgraded her exosuit. Stronger, faster, now able to protect her spine and legs in case of a fall. Marco mapped the location from the metadata, embedded in the photo, an abandoned lab buried beneath Titan's former research facility. And Keanu, he prepared himself for one truth. He might not come back. They left at midnight. The building looked dead, its windows shattered, walls cracked by time. But inside, the lights were still on. Power was being routed from a secret generator below. This place wasn't abandoned. It was hidden. They entered silently. The hallways were lined with glass doors. Inside, they saw broken machines, shredded documents, and old names scribbled in chalk on walls. Names of children. Some were crossed out. At the end of the corridor, a steel door stood open. Keanu and Aaliyah walked inside. In the center of the room was a single glass tube. Inside was the girl from the photo. About Aaliyah's age, pale skin, blank stare, wires in her arms and back. But the moment Aaliyah stepped in, the girl's eyes moved. Not toward Keanu, toward her. Aaliyah, the girl whispered. Her voice echoed, strangely like it came from inside both their heads. Aaliyah walked closer. What's your name? The girl blinked. Then slowly she mouthed. Hope. Keanu's heart stopped. Aaliyah whispered back. You're not alone anymore. But then, screens lit up across the wall. Colin Stain's face appeared. Smug, sharp, and still. I knew you'd come, he said. The file your father left. Behind isn't just data, Aaliyah. It's the map to a future that belongs to me. Keanu stepped forward. That future's over. Stain ignored him. Hope is the last piece. Her neural link to Aaliyah completes the chain. We don't even need her body. We just need her mind. Aaliyah stared at the screen. You used her like a machine. She is a machine. Stain said coldly, and so are you. No, Aaliyah whispered. We're not machines, we're hearts. And in that moment, something changed. The lights flickered. Hope's body trembled. Keanu stepped back. What's happening? Lucas's voice crackled. Through the earpiece. Aaliyah's exosuit. It's syncing with Hope's neural pattern. Your presence triggered it. Hope gasped. Her body moved for the first time. She reached out, not to a machine, but to Aaliyah. Their hands touched. The glass, and just like that, the screen behind them shattered. Keanu turned. The machines were overloading. Get back, Marco shouted from the hall, but Aaliyah held on. A wave of energy pulsed through the room. Not electricity, not heat. Something else. Connection. Something born from two broken children who still believed in light. The glass cracked. Hope fell, forward into Aaliyah's arms, and behind them, every machine went dead. Hours later, the facility was taken over by federal agents. The evidence was too massive to ignore now. Colin Stain vanished, but every screen he touched had been recorded. Public outrage erupted. Survivors came forward. Class action lawsuits followed. The Emberlight project was buried forever. But more importantly, the children it tried to erase were remembered. 1 month later, Aaliyah sat in a quiet garden. Beside her, Hope, no longer wired, no longer silent, painted a flower on a small canvas. Her hands were still shaky, but she smiled now. Dr. Lucas walked up. She's improving every day. Keanu smiled. Because she's not alone. Behind them, Marco grilled vegetables. Lana set up a camera for their next interview. The world still wanted to hear from Elia, but today was just for living. Elia turned to Keanu. Can I ask you something? Anything, he said. Are you going to adopt me? Keanu's eyes softened. I thought you'd never ask. Elia grinned. Then yes, he said. You're home now. And somewhere, beneath the sky that once watched her cry in a storm drain, a new story had begun. One of strength, of healing, and of a quiet man who chose to stay when others walked away, because kindness is the most powerful rescue of all.